Hello, welcome to the Road to October. I'm your host, Ryan Lorenz. We'll be navigating baseball history through the lens of the Fall Classic. In this episode, we'll be covering the first game of the 1905 World Series between the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Athletics. If you didn't listen to our previous episode about the lack of World Series in 1904, no worries. We'll provide you a quick wrap-up of what you missed. So there was no World Series in 1904. This was due to some issues with the ownership situation in New York. The owner there refused to play what he deemed a lesser league in the American League at the time. So even though there were two teams that had finished first in their leagues, they didn't play each other in the World Series like they did in 1903. However, that owner of the New York Giants, John T. Brush, he in the offseason created a set of rules and devised a way to share revenue for the World Series to basically set the standard for World Series to come. So during the 1905 season, the New York Giants were dominant once again, led by their excellent pitching staff behind the arms of Christy Mathewson and Joe McGinnity. They finished first in the National League, and while over in the American League, the Philadelphia Athletics did not dominate the same way that the Giants did, but they were able to finish 2 games ahead of the White Sox behind a star pitcher of their own, Rube Waddell. So that brings us to Game 1 of the 1905 World Series, which took place on October 9th, 1905 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Though not shown in the picture here, there were nearly 18,000 fans in the stands for the game. The first pitch was at noon, so let's head down to the field for our first pitch between pitchers Christy Mathewson and Eddie Plank. Also, I should note that if you are listening on podcast, there is a video component now with the podcast that has a little display of some of the action, so it's a little bit easier to visualize what happened on the field during the game. So if you have a chance, go ahead and look at our YouTube page to see some of the new and improved content that we have being posted there. Before we get to the first pitch, we have the lineups here. Batting first for the Giants is Roger Bresnahan. Second is George Brown. Third, Mike Donlin. Fourth, Dan McGann. Fifth, Sam Mertes. Sixth, Bill Dolan. Seventh is Art Devlin. Batting eighth is Bill Gilbert. And batting ninth is pitcher Christy Mathewson. For the Athletics, batting first is Topsy Hartzell. Second is Brees Lord. Batting third is Harry Davis. Batting fourth, Lave Cross. Batting fifth, Sox Siebold. Batting sixth, Danny Murphy. Batting seventh, Monte Cross. Batting eighth, O.C. Schreckengast. And batting ninth, pitcher Eddie Plank. So Eddie Plank, the lean, ritualistic 29-year-old, the 5'11" left-handed pitcher from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, took the mound for the Athletics, and leading off for the New York Giants was Roger Bresnahan, the 26-year-old catcher from Toledo, Ohio. Plank was known to be somewhat wild. To start the game, this was no doubtly the case when he hits Roger Bresnahan to start the game. With a runner now on first, George Brown steps to the plate, but Brown ends up grounding out to second for the force out. With one away, Mike Donlin now steps in. He hits a pop fly to first base. 2 outs. Next up is Dan McGann. He hits a ball to deep right field, and it bounces over the fence for a ground rule double. Brown advances to third. We have runners at second and third with 2 outs. Now hitting is Sam Mertes, and Eddie Plank ends the inning with a strikeout, leaving runners stranded on second and third. Now moving to the bottom of the first. Christy Mathewson now on the mound to face the leadoff hitter Topsy Hartzell. Hartzell makes contact but grounds out to second base. Next up is Brees Lord, who makes contact as well, hitting a ball to center field. The center fielder is able to get under it and make the catch for the second out of the inning. In steps Harry Davis, who hits a grounder back to the pitcher, tosses it over to first for the third out of the inning. On to the top of the first, Eddie Plank back on the mound to face Bill Dolan. Bill Dolan strikes out for the first out of the inning. Now up to bat is Art Devlin. Art Devlin lays down a bunt to the third base side and beats the throw to first. Billy Gilbert now steps in with a runner on first and 1 out. He also lays down a bunt, this one back to the pitcher. Both Devlin and Gilbert arrive safely. So we now have 2 on, 1 out, with the pitcher, Christy Mathewson, at the plate. With 2 runners now in scoring position, Mathewson looks to give New York their first lead of the game. However, he's unable to do so when he strikes out. This brings up Roger Bresnahan with 2 outs, runners on second and third. However, Plank intentionally walks Bresnahan to give a force out at every base. This ultimately pays off when George Brown hits a grounder to shortstop to end the inning. On to the bottom of the second. Lave Cross leads off the inning for the Athletics. He starts the inning off with a ground out to shortstop. Then Sock Siebold steps in. He also is a quick out with a pop fly to the shortstop. Next up is Danny Murphy. He ends the inning with a ground out to second base. On to the top of the third. Score still 0-0. In steps Mike Donlin to face Eddie Plank. Donlin makes contact, but is a quick ground out to first base. Then Dan McGann steps up. He also is a quick out with a grounder to third. The third baseman tosses it across the diamond for a quick out. Sam Mertes steps up with 2 outs. He ends the inning with a ground out to second base. Leading off the bottom of the third for the Philadelphia Athletics is Monty Cross. He makes contact over on the third base side. Third baseman picks up the ball and tosses it across the diamond for the first out of the inning. Next up is catcher O.C. Schreckengost. He hits a fly ball to deep center field. The center fielder drops it for an error, and Schreckengost is able to reach safely. Next up is pitcher Eddie Plank, who puts the ball in play to the shortstop, who touches second base and tosses it to first for a double play to end the inning. On to the top of the fourth. Bill Dolan steps in to face Eddie Plank, who gets a ground out to second base to start the inning. Next up is Art Devlin, who strikes out. 2 outs in the top of the fourth. Billy Gilbert steps in, and he also grounds out to end the inning. On to the bottom of the fourth inning. Topsy Hartzell steps in to face Christy Mathewson. Hartzell gets a hold of one and hits a single to center field. With a runner on first and no outs, Brees Lord steps in. Brees Lord bunts, puts a ball down to the second baseman, who tosses it to the shortstop covering second. 1 out. Next up, Harry Davis, the best hitter for the Athletics. He isn't able to move the runner when he hits a grounder to the shortstop, who gets the force out at second. With 2 outs and runner on first, Lave Cross steps up. He ends the inning with a ground out to the shortstop. On to the top of the fifth. We have a pitcher versus pitcher matchup. Eddie Plank on the mound, Christy Mathewson in the batter's box. Mathewson gets the better of Plank on this at-bat with a single to center field. With a runner on first and no outs, Roger Bresnahan steps into the batter's box. He hits a grounder to the shortstop, who tosses it to the second baseman covering for a force out. Next up is George Brown, but Roger Bresnahan steals second base. With a runner in scoring position and 1 out, George Brown hits a pop fly to the shortstop. Mike Donlin now steps in with 2 outs and a runner on second. Mike Donlin makes great contact, hitting a single to left field. Bresnahan races around and scores. Mike Donlin's able to move up to second with a throw home. The Giants now have the lead, 1-0. Still with 2 outs in the top of the fifth and a runner on second, Dan McGann steps in. Eddie Plank issues an intentional walk. The runners are now on first and second with 2 outs. Sam Mertes steps in. He hits a ground rule double to deep center field. Mike Donlin scores, and Dan McGann advances to third base. Giants now lead 2-0. With 2 outs and runners on second and third, Bill Dolan steps in. He hits a fly ball to deep left field, but the left fielder steps under it to make the catch to end the inning. On to the bottom of the fifth. Sock Siebold leads off for the Athletics against Christy Mathewson. He hits a grounder back to the pitcher, who tosses it over to first for the first out. Next up is Danny Murphy, who becomes a strikeout victim. With 2 outs in the bottom of the fifth, Monty Cross steps up. He ends the inning with a ground out to second base. On to the top of the sixth, Art Devlin steps in as a leadoff hitter against Eddie Plank. He hits a fly ball to deep center field, but the center fielder is able to get under it for the first out of the inning. Next up is Billy Gilbert. He hits a single to left field. With 1 on, 1 out, with Mathewson in the batter's box, Gilbert tries to steal second, but is caught. 2 outs. Mathewson hits a ground ball to the shortstop to end the inning. O.C. Schreckengoss leads off the bottom of the sixth for the Athletics. He hits a double to deep left field. Next up for the Athletics is pitcher Eddie Plank. He strikes out, but it's a dropped third pitch, and Schreckengoss is able to move up on the strikeout. With a runner at third, 1 out, Topsy Hartzell steps in. He hits a ball back to the pitcher, where Schreckengoss tries to make his way home, but is thrown out at the plate. Hartzell is safe at first. So with 2 outs, runner on first, Reese Lord steps up and hits a ground ball to the shortstop, who gets the force out at second base. And that ends the inning. Roger Bresnahan leads off for the New York Giants in the top of the seventh. He hits a fly ball to center field. Center fielder is able to get under it and secure the ball for the first out. With 1 out in the top of the seventh, George Brown steps in. He hits a grounder to the shortstop, tosses it over to first for the second out. Next up is Mike Donlin. He lays down a bunt to the third base side and is able to reach base safely. Now up is Dan McGann. Mike Donlin steals second base. With Donlin now on second base, McGann hits the ground ball to the shortstop to end the inning. In the bottom of the seventh, Harry Davis leads off. The Athletics offense has been pretty quiet to this point, with only 2 hits compared to the 8 hits of the New York Giants. Score is still 2-0. Harry Davis starts off the inning with a strikeout. Lave Cross now steps up to the plate. He follows up with a ground out to the second baseman. And Sock Siebold now steps up to the plate to face Christy Mathewson. He ends the inning with a ground out to the third baseman. A quick 3 up, 3 down for Mathewson. On to the top of the eighth, where Sam Mertes leads off for the New York Giants. He starts the inning off with a ground out to the second baseman. Bill Dolan now steps up to the plate with 1 out. He hits a pop fly to the shortstop for the second out of the inning. Art Devlin now steps in with 2 outs. He strikes out to end the inning. On to the bottom of the eighth. With only 6 outs remaining for the Athletics, things are looking dire. Their offense hasn't performed much. Hopefully, Danny Murphy will be able to make a difference leading off. He hits a ground rule double to deep right field. Monty Cross now steps up. No outs, runner on second. However, Cross goes down the way of the K for the first out of the inning. Next up is catcher O.C. Schreckengoss. He hits a fly ball to right field, but the right fielder steps under it, secures the ball for the second out of the inning. Eddie Plank now steps in to face Christy Mathewson. However, Eddie Plank isn't able to advance the runner in scoring position when he strikes out. With a threat on second base, Christy Mathewson hunkered down and ended the inning without any damage. On to the top of the ninth. Leading off is Billy Gilbert. He hits a single to left field. Christy Mathewson now steps up. He lays down a beautiful sacrifice bunt to the first base side. Gilbert's able to advance safely to second. With 1 out in the top of the ninth, runner on second, Roger Bresnahan now steps up to the plate. He singles to center field. Billy Gilbert races around third and scores. Bresnahan's able to advance to second on the throw home. The runner on second, 1 out. George Brown steps in. He hits a ground out to the first baseman, but allows Bresnahan to advance to third base. With a 3-0 lead, Mike Donlin steps in the top of the ninth with 2 outs and a runner on third. However, the runner on third is not able to make it home safely when Donlin grounds out to the second baseman. On to the bottom of the ninth, 3 final outs for the Athletics. Topsy Hartzell leads off. He hits a ground out to the shortstop. Next up is Brees Lord. He strikes out for the second out of the inning. Down to their final out, the Athletics' best hitter, Harry Davis, steps up. He hits a ground rule double to deep center field. With 2 outs, runner on second, Lave Cross steps up to face Christy Mathewson. He ends the game with a ground out to third base. The New York Giants take Game 1 of the 1905 World Series, scored a 3-0. Both pitchers went the full 9 innings. Mathewson gave up 4 hits, no earned runs, with 6 strikeouts. Eddie Plank gave up 10 hits, 3 earned runs, 5 strikeouts, 2 walks. All right, so let's cover the top 5 plays based on weighted win probability added. Number 1 is going to be the single to left field that drove in the first run of the game by Mike Donlin when Roger Bresnahan scored. That added a win probability of 16%. Also in the top of the 5th, when Sam Mertes hit his ground rule double, allowing Donlin to score, that added a 13% win probability added. In the bottom of the 8th, with Danny Murphy up, his ground rule double had a -10 weighted win probability added. And in the bottom of the 6th, we have 2 more plays on the Philadelphia side. Topsy Hartzell grounding to that fielder's choice where Schreckengoss gets thrown out at home. That had a +10 win percentage added to the New York Giants. And before that, Schreckengoss double to left field had a -9 weighted win percentage added to the game. Thank you for listening to Game 1 of the 1905 World Series. I am your host, Ryan Lorenz. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Road to October. Make sure to stop by next week for Game 2 of the 1905 World Series, when we'll be covering each game play by play. A new episode drops every Wednesday, so make sure to like and subscribe and rate and review the podcast. Make sure you have the notifications on so you get first access to the episodes. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see you next week.